Today, the issue of car break-ins. We track an opportunist thief.
The car windows open just a small amount. It's broad daylight. He's a very confident thief.
Who's unaware that the stolen item is fitted with a tracking device. Plus, officers come face to face with the scariest stolen tractor on the rampage in West Yorkshire.
This guy was basically trapped into a corner and was fighting his way out.
It was very unnerving, yeah. You get a 10-ton machine coming towards you.
And the businessman's tracker trap, set to catch a gang of chocolate bandits.
It's a great way of securing what you've got. They're going to come in if they want to come in. You might as well catch them.
By the end of 2014, there were almost 30 million cars on the UK's roads. We're certainly a nation of car lovers. But car crime is an ever-present danger, and in the same year, there were more than 350,000 incidents, including car break-ins and vehicle robberies. One victim of car crime is Sheena from Hertfordshire, whose car was broken into in February 2015. Her 28-year-old son, Luke, had died, and while Sheena was visiting his graveside, her bag was stolen from her car.
My son had died a few weeks previously, and it was the first opportunity I'd had to go back and to take some flowers. As we were walking back to the car, I could hear a car alarm going, and I said to my daughter, "That's my car alarm." And we ran then out of the cemetery, and I could see that the window was smashed. And I knew that they'd taken my bag. And my son's toy was in the bag, and it was horrendous. The toy soldier was one of a set that he'd had as a little boy. They were 24. He used to call them his boys, and this was the only one that had survived. And I used to say to him, "One of these days I'm bringing the toy back to you and you can look after it." And he said, "No, you keep it, Mum, because you'll keep it safe." And then I couldn't, because somebody stole. Normally I wouldn't leave my bag on the seat. I just got out of the car and didn't think to move the bag, and would have thought that in a cemetery car park it would have been fairly safe. The biggest part of my bag being taken was Luke's toy. It's worth nothing. It costs nothing. It's a tiny 2-inch wooden soldier. I can't replace that. That was the last remaining thing that I had to connect me to him, and that's gone.
Coming so soon after the death of her son, Sheena's experience of car crime hit her hard. But fortunately, there is some good news.
A couple of weeks ago, when I returned home from work, I'd had a call from the police in King's Lynn to say that they had found my bag with Luke's toy intact. This is the tiny, tiny, insignificant to anybody else toy, but it means a huge lot to me, because I'm close to Luke when I have this toy. The toy doesn't go out of my house anymore. It sits by my bedside table next to a photograph of Luke, where it's safe and I can see it every day.
A bag stolen in Hertfordshire and finally traced in King's Lynn? That's quite a trek. Now, car break-ins happen all over the UK, but London is the national hotspot. More than 82,000 incidents were recorded by the Metropolitan Police in 2014. Former Metropolitan Police Inspector Keith Farquharson is helping us with our investigation.
We're running this scenario in the London Borough of Newham. This borough has the highest incidence of car crime in the whole of London, currently running at 3,500 crimes in the year 2014 to 2015. We're also looking at a street with a high incidence of car crime.
We aren't planning to have the actual car stolen. We're keen to find out where an item might go once it's stolen from our car. We're using a second-hand games console as bait, but other items that rank high in incidences of car theft are exterior fittings such as wiper blades, car badges and aerials. So far in the series, we've looked at the way thieves operate, for instance, snatching possessions like bags or phones when victims least expect it. This time, we're putting out a car that's deliberately laden with items to see how thieves would react to a vehicle parked by an unwise consumer. Alongside our games console, we'll leave a few other items, including a smartphone.
Electrical items are among the top 3 items stolen from vehicles.
Should any of our items be stolen, we'll trace their journeys with the help of GPS tracking devices like this.
The basis of that technology is this device can make range measurements from here to satellites orbiting in space. Those satellites might be 20,000 kilometres away. That gives you the ability to plot that position on a map, display it on a computer, so you'll know where the device is.
We've parked our car in position in Newham. According to Police UK, this London borough has a very high incidence of car crime. Our crew will monitor the items from another vehicle parked nearby. What kind of thieves will they attract? Thieves often use the cover of darkness. Sure enough, it isn't long before our vehicle and its contents attract some interest. A group of men start to scope out the car and take a good look inside. The group stay just out of shot. Then, one of them comes over for a closer look. But it seems he's not brazen enough to break in. But what about this guy? He comes close to the car for a really good look. Then he walks off as well. It's possible that they think a car full of gadgets may be too good to be true. The group has been here for a while now. Then another character arrives. He seems to be pointing out the shop's CCTV cameras to the other men. And that's made them more wary of our car. These men seem to think our laden vehicle is a police trap. So it's a little too hot for these lads. A few days later, we tried again, some distance away. And eventually, this is what happened. A young lad is loitering near the car. He's on the phone to someone, but it definitely seems like the car has caught his eye. Maybe he's sizing it up. He wanders off, but then he returns with an accomplice. They seem to be waiting until the coast is completely clear. He takes the phone from the dashboard before calmly walking away. This thief is an opportunist who's taken advantage of the gap in the window and gone for it. Clearly not so committed a thief as to smash the window, but he has the idea that the phone is valuable enough to steal. Later, we follow the trail of the stolen smartphone as it weaves its way across East London.
Tracking data shows that the phone ended up in a house in Ham Park Road.
Opportunist thieves will often take a moment to seize our property, hoping to make a few pounds from a quick sale. But organised crime gangs look for higher rewards. Their typical targets include building sites. In the construction industry, around £70 million worth of heavy plant machinery is stolen each year. Vehicles like this telescopic handler cost between £10,000 and more than £100,000 apiece. Often left on site and unattended, they are frequently targeted. Tracking companies are doing their utmost to combat this kind of heavy-duty hijacking.
Specifically for a Teley Handler, these are really quite high-value machines and they tend to be stolen by serious organised criminal gangs. And those kind of people will steal them literally to transport and to sell. If you wanted to take £100,000 in cash or drugs across borders and into another country, you've got a serious challenge on your hands and the penalties for doing so would be huge. If, however, you want to do that and you steal the machine locally, you're effectively taking £100,000 over to the end destination where you will readily be able to turn it back into cash.
A brazen example of this occurred in the West Yorkshire town of Castleford in 2011. Peter's tracking company swung into action following a phone call from one of his clients.
He rang us up and was actually just asking about some of the units on his tracking software. He incidentally mentioned to me that he'd had a theft that day. Obviously, we were hoping it had a tracking system on there. He said it didn't. While we were checking the locations of machines on his list and getting live locations, he said, oh, that's weird. I mean, that's not meant to be in that location. What can that be? And he sort of hung up the phone very promptly and rang us back 5 minutes later and went, it's got a tracking system on it. It's from a job that we had previously. We didn't take the tracking system off. We immediately called the head of our investigations team, a chap called John Mussett. I just called him up and said, get in the car now. We'll give you more details en route.
That's right. There's been a scary 10-ton machine on the loose in West Yorkshire for nearly 3 days, and the owners have only just noticed. Peter's colleague John quickly set off in pursuit. The Teley Handler was somewhere near Castleford, and John had to get there fast to pinpoint the signal and location.
So we're on our way up to Castleford, travelling up the A1. The tracking circle was showing up near to a place called Fairburn Ings, which is a nature reserve, but also covering part of Castleford town centre. I found it using the rangefinder, which is a directional signal that the unit gives out. So basically follow the loudest noise and eventually it will take you to the machine. So on this occasion it took us to a triangular piece of wasteland at the side of the railway line where I could see the roof of the Teley Handler hidden amongst the trees.
The vehicle had been hidden from view, a standard tactic used by organised criminals.
Because the machine had been missing for several days at this point, it had obviously been left there to cool off. Thieves would leave a machine to cool off because they know that a lot of these high-value assets do have trackers and they don't want to be caught red-handed with them, so they will leave them somewhere out of the way, probably where the public don't have an easy view of the machine, just to cool off, and they'll go back a couple of days later. If the machine is still there, they will assume there is no tracker fitted and move it.
Tracking the machine was relatively easy. However, retrieving the Teley Handler turned out to be anything but.
At the point that I'd arrived and found the machine, unbeknownst to me initially, one of the thieves was in there about to move it. So when I looked again into the scrubland, the machine was actually moving in amongst the trees.
John dialed 999 and alerted the police.
I was really pumped up at that point because I knew that we were going to end up with some kind of a pursuit.
We've had a few pursuits over the time. Whenever that happens, two things cross through our mind. A, it's an unusual situation and it's I'll be honest, it's a bit exciting when these things happen, but also with a responsibility for our investigators on the ground, we are obviously a little bit concerned.
So, there's a Teley Handler chugging along at 15 miles per hour through the streets of Castleford. John kept the police updated throughout his frustrating journey.
He wasn't aware I was following him at that point. I was several vehicles back. It was awkward because he was going so slowly and there was a lot of traffic, so I had to keep turning into side roads to avoid getting too close behind him. But eventually, after probably 5 minutes or so, we'd ended up with 2 Panda cars behind me and then a couple of other marked vehicles, Panda cars, coming in the opposite direction. At this point, he became aware that something was amiss, I believe, and that the police were actually onto him.
The chase had been on for several miles now and had reached Sheepwalk Lane, where the thief tried a manoeuvre to lose the police.
He came to a road junction, he turned left and then did another left turn into what transpired was a cul-de-sac.
Ah, yes, I remember it well.
But the crook's error almost had disastrous consequences for John.
This is the cul-de-sac that the Teley Handler turned down. I think probably the thief didn't realise it was a cul-de-sac when he turned into it. I got halfway down and realised that it was a cul-de-sac myself. So I pulled over onto the left-hand side onto the footpath to keep out of the way. The 2 Panda cars went past me towards the Teley Handler, but when he got to the top of the cul-de-sac, he decided he wasn't stopping. So he did a 3-point turn with the machine and came back towards us.
The thief wasn't going to give up easily. He knew this machine could do a lot of damage.
This guy was basically trapped into a corner and was fighting his way out. And he had something much more powerful than anyone else involved in that, whether it's police cars or my cars. If they want to, they'll just go straight through the police cars if they weren't there.
So the 2 Panda cars reversed past me at speed And then I had to reverse, and luckily one of the other patrol cars that was on the main road behind us had stopped all the traffic so we could get out of the way to let the Teley Handler get out of the cul-de-sac. It was very unnerving, yeah. You get a 10-ton machine kind of coming towards you and you're stuck with your reverse gear, hoping that the two patrol cars that were behind me were going to keep moving.
At the wheel of a slow, heavy-duty loader, there was no way the crook could outrun the police. But they had no idea the lengths this thief would go to in order to evade capture.
Yeah, he travelled a few hundred yards out of the houses and then did a right turn and crashed straight through this hawthorn hedge. To watch that, it was impressive. He didn't slow down at all, and obviously the weight of that machine, about 10 tonnes, just took him straight through the hedge, and off he went straight through the crop. He was pretty intent on not stopping and surrendering to the police, even though there were by that time at least 6 marked police vehicles near to him.
The Teley Handler thief clearly worked on the principle that it was his way or the highway. But an imminent collision with the M62 motorway brought his dreams of a smart getaway to a standstill.
The officers came into the field. At this point, the thief had stopped in the middle of the field but wouldn't get out of the Teley Handler, so they ended up tasering him in the cab. He fell out of the cab. He got up, ran at the police officers, there to taser him a second time, and that subdued him and he was handcuffed and arrested.
Without the tracking system, we would never have seen this again unless it was a pure coincidental find. We just wouldn't even know where to look.
It was a cracking result. It was a good track. It was an interesting pursuit with the police, and it was a good result at the end. The customer got his machine back with minimal damage, and also we got the offender arrested.
No doubt the residents of Castleford were extremely relieved to have this fearsome 10-ton vehicle off their streets. Earlier, we considered the high incidence of car crime, 350,000 each year in the UK, including car break-ins. So where do those items go when they're stolen? To find out, we fitted a GPS tracker into a games console, also a smartphone. We put them in a car in a London neighbourhood with a high crime rate. After 2 attempts in different locations, it was the phone that was stolen.
The car windows opened just a small amount, just enough for him to get his hand through. It's broad daylight, he's a very confident thief.
So what has happened to our stolen phone? Keith is on the case.
The thief struck at 1:50 p.m. The data was a little slow to start reporting. However, it gradually came online over the next 12 hours. And finally, at 4 a.m, it showed the item moving north.
But the thief didn't get far. No more than a few streets away, around 5 minutes from where the phone was stolen.
Tracking data shows that the phone ended up in a house in Ham Park Road.
That's where it stayed. The signal didn't move from that point onwards. But pinpointing the exact location isn't straightforward.
With GPS tracking data, it's not always possible to be able to narrow it down by one house. You would then have to resort to more traditional methods, a leaflet drop, intelligence, or hopefully a Crime Stoppers phone call to indicate where the phone may have gone to.
So we turned to more traditional tracking methods. We sent leaflets to some of the houses to see if anyone had recently bought a second-hand smartphone. We had no response. Then, a day after our leaflet drop, the tracker signal stopped. It's very likely that our inquiries spooked whoever has the phone. They discovered the tracker and destroyed it. Being such a short distance away from where the phone was stolen, it's highly likely that the thief lives on the street. So it's not surprising we didn't hear from anyone. It's a stark warning to us all that if we're unwise enough to leave our valuables on view for all to see, they will most likely be stolen. So we know where the phone went, and the authorities are more than welcome to take a closer look at our surveillance footage of the phone snatcher in action. Thieves will make off with anything that isn't screwed down. Everything from our personal possessions to our business commodities. So it's no surprise that companies are turning to modern technology in the fight against crime. Our next story takes place in Mansfield, a market town 15 miles north of Nottingham, close to the M1 motorway. It's the location of a robbery from a hard-working businessman that left a bad taste in the mouth.
It's gutting. You work hard, you put as much time and effort into growing the business as you can, and then somebody just comes and takes everything.
Meet Andrew Widdowson, Mansfield's very own Willy Wonka. His particular chocolate factory is a warehouse chock-a-block with vending machines and all the treats you'd need to fill them.
We're a vending business. We fill, clean the machines, take the cash, etc. That's part of the business. We're also wholesale, so we wholesale vending ingredients and all the associated products with those.
But all these goodies make Andrew's warehouse a prime target for organised crime.
We've had 3 break-ins over the last 12 months. The first break-in, crowbarred open the doors, and they smashed machines that were in here. There's nothing in them, but they broke into them anyway. Absolutely wiped out this place. It was empty. They took everything. The second break-in, they were disturbed, so I was called. I came here in the middle of the night. There was a van in this unit, loaded up with stock. It was a stolen van, which they'd abandoned.
So why would thieves be interested in fizzy drinks and confectionery?
The stock that people are interested in is the branded product. We have chocolate bars that are branded. We have cans of pop, bottles that are branded, crisps that are branded. That's the sort of thing that people can easily sell on.
The consequences arising from the robbery could have been serious for Andrew and his team.
It's gutting. It can take a small business down, and that can take 16 families with it. That's a big impact.
And break-ins have more than just a financial effect on all involved.
It did make you feel really unsafe with the amount of break-ins that we've had, to know that people have been in, they've seen what you've got, they've been looking at your personal, probably photos that you might have on your wall, so they know what your family looks like. It makes you feel angry as well, because they've been allowed to do it that many times.
The police, they've not got the resources to sit outside all night. Nobody has the resources to do that, so you've got to find a way of making sure that you can catch these guys, and that eventually it will stop happening.
Andrew wanted results. The prevention stage was over.
You can spend all the money you like putting in security measures, and these guys just don't care. They will smash their way past it. So it was a case of, right, let's not put any more obstacles in the way, but let's find some way of catching them. Hence, I decided to buy a tracking device. Trackers are such small devices nowadays. We can very easily hide a tracker inside a box of confectionery. It's very simple, very covert, and people just will not know they're taking it.
Like many tracking systems, this one sends signals to pinpoint its location and has a battery that can last for several weeks depending on usage.
So you know, even if they take it and the police don't get it straight away, they might get it the next day, might get it in 2 days, might get it in 3 weeks, it doesn't matter. It will be there until it gets recovered.
The question was, where to hide the tracker?
We're looking for boxes that we can easily just slightly pop and slip it in covertly. The best one of those we always found was the Kit Kat Chunky. It's a good piece of stock that people will want to steal. Not only that, you can just squeeze the box and place it inside. Nobody's any the wiser.
Until someone tries to have a sneaky nibble.
So if I move it from here to here, the tracker's just told us that we've done that. It knows exactly where it is and where it moves.
What a clever tracker.
So it was just a case of sitting and waiting till it happened. I'm a pessimist by nature, so I know if it's happened once, it's going to happen again.
Sure enough, it did. On the night of the 18th of December 2014, the thieves crowbarred open the shutter door for the 3rd time and helped themselves, like taking candy from a baby.
I got a phone call early that morning from the guy who opens up. He said we'd been broken into, so he contacted the police. I come straight down to work. I opened the door, walked in. There was pallets in the middle of the warehouse. There was boxes ripped open, scattered everywhere. It was empty. They just, from seeing it the previous night, from leaving at 5 o'clock to coming in early that morning, it was like you were walking into a different place.
It proved to be a costly robbery.
The items that were taken were valued of around £3,000. The total amount of damage was estimated to be in the region of £10,000.
This was the moment Andrew had been waiting for, a chance to catch the thieves with their hands in the sweetie jar.
I quickly flipped out my laptop, logged on. The tracker left the units here at about 2 o'clock in the morning. We know exactly what route they took, even how fast they were moving.
The tracking data showed the chocolate snatchers had driven more than 60 miles south, taking their bounty to Walsall. Thinking they got away with this whole nut heist, the Bourneville burglars hadn't bargained for Andrew's tenacious tracker.
The tracker was quite clearly in the West Midlands at an address. I subsequently made a phone call, 999, informed the police where it was, and it was passed on to West Midlands Police.
Initially, the police thought the tracker and the stolen chocks were still on the road.
They were saying to me, what vehicle are we looking for? I'm saying, you're not looking for a vehicle, you're looking for something inside a vehicle. I gave them access to my tracking panel so that they can go on and they can look where this was. So they had full access to watch this stock moving around live.
Using Andrew's tracking data, the police pinpointed the location of the stolen box of treats to a wholesaler's in Walsall and swooped.
And that led to the arrest of 3 suspects as well, so the tracking device in this case was crucial to everything.
Unfortunately, 4 members of the chocolate bar gang, captured here on the wholesaler's CCTV, managed to escape.
The fourth one is very interesting because it's with one of his children. There's a child there that's about 3 years old, and he's took that child with him to actually sell stolen goods.
Unbelievable. That's Bring Your Child to Work Day taken to a whole different level. Thankfully, Andrew recovered his stock. He continues to use the tracker and has even bought some more.
Anybody that's wanting to catch somebody or has had problems before, I'd recommend doing it.
Take a leaf out of this gentleman's book, research tracking devices and consider implementing them in your own businesses.
Since this has happened, there's been very little around Mansfield in terms of break-ins, particularly on this business park. It's dropped completely. This was a business park that, yes, it did get broken into regularly. Since it's happened, I don't think there's been another instance.
Nice work, Andrew. Go on, have a break.